Hey, it's Martin. We're recording this in Central Park, a few hundred meters from where Seneca Village once stood. A community of free black families and Irish immigrants. Demolished, so this park we built in 1857. 28 years later, in 1885, two British subjects were murdered near the Shakespeare statue, not far from where we're sitting. It may have happened. Maybe it didn't. The historical conditions were certainly there for it. And if it did happen, there was one man who might have been sent to investigate.
This spot is also halfway between where Martin and I live in New York City. One of my favorite parts of Central Park, the Pinetum, which is at the north end of the Great Lawn or the Ellipse, depending on what you call it. Beautiful day here. Our first episode recorded entirely outdoors. So a lot of new experiences coming our way. We're also about 3 miles from where we'll be on June 1st with Fresh Stew live.
John, kindly fill in the listeners on some of the details of what they can expect in terms of Fresh Stew.
Let's get the details up front here. Fresh Stew Live is going to be a live podcast recording before a paying audience. And it's going to feature the author Terry Golway, well known in historical and Irish American history circles, also a novelist. And he has just taken on the task of penning a mystery thriller called Terror from America, a Sherlock Holmes Adventure. It's going to be Monday, June 1st. The doors open at 6:30. It's going to be at Ernie O'Malley's on East 27th Street in New York City. It's going to feature music, an actor, music to end with, and a lot of good times along the way.
And so this is going to be a new experience for Irish Stew. We've done a few live audience events before, most recently at the Capital Irish Film Festival in Washington, D.C., but this one is different.
Yeah, and I'll just mention also, our first foray was just about a year ago with the Origin Theater, where we did 2 episodes in one night under the auspices of the artistic director at that time, Mick Mellamphy, and he's our secret weapon in this show. He is really helping us pull it all together, and he'll be the actor who will add some dramatic zing to the reading section of the program.
And on June 1st, down in Ernie O'Malley's, a famous revolutionary name, a Fenian pub par excellence, I cannot imagine a better place to be talking about some of the figures that populate Terry's book, because the book Terry has written really features important Irish-American historical figures, but it is a work of fiction. It's actually a really interesting entry point for people that are maybe not that familiar with 19th century Irish-American history.
I would have to say I'd be one of them, even though we keep kind of returning to stories that are set in that 5 Points neighborhood. But it was recently the commemoration of the Catalpa, the famous rescue of Irish Fenians in Australia. And a lot of the characters that Galway weaves into this Sherlock Holmes mystery were involved with that amazing rescue.
Yeah, most notably John Devoy.
Exactly.
So John Devoy, really important figure in Irish-American history and indeed Irish history. The 1916 Rising likely wouldn't have happened without John Devoy. And John Devoy, although he lived most of his life in America, is buried in Dublin in Glasnevin Cemetery. So he's a guy that you want to get to know, although, little note on the side, Eamon de Valera didn't like him, and that's probably why many Irish people don't know anything about him.
Terry does a good job hinting at all those rivalries and feuds that go on in the Irish-American and Irish revolutionary communities. It wasn't a united front. And he's also the expert on Devoy, too, having written a book about him. But let's just frame up the novel, because this is going to be one of the questions I ask Terry. Writing a Sherlock Holmes novel, to some people, will be like saying, I'm writing a Shakespeare play. Sherlock Holmes is revered. He's got a avid following who look at every little detail to see if it links up with the canon of Sherlock Holmes. But Terror from America, in the book, it's 1985. London is under siege. Irish-American Fenians are dynamiting bridges, trains, and even Scotland Yard. Her Majesty's government decides to dispatch Sherlock Holmes to New York, and he travels a trail of verse and violence into the city's underworld. But as the great detective closes in, powerful forces within New York's Irish community move to protect their own, turning the city into a battlefield of wit, loyalty, and hidden allegiances. And I read that right from the book flap.
What's wonderful about this book is it weaves real facts into fiction, and it makes it plausible. And even the language used by Terry reflects Arthur Conan Doyle's writing. So if you're a Sherlockian, this certainly might be an event for you. And if you haven't heard of Sherlockians before, they're the equivalent of Trekkies.
Yeah, and I think the International Club is the Baker Street Irregulars, so they have an avid following. We welcome Sherlockians to join us at Ernie O'Malley's. And a lot of times when I see a preface in a book, my tendency is to skip over it. The preface is really a great start. Terry cleverly frames up how he comes to write this novel. It's in Sherlock's voice, it's in Watson's voice, it's in Devoy's voice, and a few other memorable characters as well.
Yep, a great read, but we're also going to have a great conversation. And I just wanted to talk about live events.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We could have easily recorded this episode in our studio. We're choosing not to because we want to have the opportunity to meet people in the round and for them to participate in the experience. We had a great time recording live episodes with Origin Theatre and Capital Irish Film Festival because the feedback loop was always pleasant.
You know, when we're putting these episodes out in the ether, we're not hearing if somebody laughs or somebody's shocked or somebody's amused or quizzical, but you can see it happening all around you, particularly in that pub-like atmosphere at the Origin, which will be closer to the Ernie O'Malley's on the Capital Irish Film Festival. That was a big show. Might have been 300 people in the audience. That had its own dynamics. But again, right away, people were laughing. People were into it. You could feel tension in the room. So it kind of recharges what we do, I think.
And just a note, Ernie O'Malley's amazing bar down on Lower Midtown might be the best way to describe it. It's on 27th Street between Lexington and 3rd Avenue. We'll be in the back room, a real conspiratorial type place. And it's not that big.
No.
So make sure that you get your tickets early because we're hopeful that this will sell out.
Yeah, this is not an SRO thing. There's no room to stand. There's seats for, a good crowd for us. But do get your tickets. And as you mentioned, the room, you could not pick out a more Fenian room to talk about the Fenian underworld of New York in the 1880s. And I think they even have something like a Fenian Friday or a Fenian Tuesday at Ernie O'Malley's. And Terry is super well-informed, super interesting and funny and snide and snarky. So we're going to have some fun with him. And I also want to ask him one other thing. Early in the book, he talks about a horrible writer of Irish-American revolutionary drivel who goes by the name of Peter Quinn. And if you look at the front page and the inside page, you'll see that there's a writer named Peter Quinn who is blurbing him in very complimentary tones. And of course, that Peter Quinn is our two-time guest on Irish Stew. So I think Terry was slagging our friend Peter Quinn, and I can't imagine that there was anything but enjoyment from Peter Quinn in seeing his name raked over the coals.
I'm sure he'll explain that was one of his more problematic cousins who wasn't properly educated.
Let's talk about some of the other elements that working with Mick Mellamphy as our producer. He's been fantastic at keeping us honest and keeping us from running off the deep end with our ideas. Doors open at 6:30. We're going to have a fiddler on the stage playing a mix of music because what is one of the many things Sherlock Holmes is noted for? He plays the violin, his famous Stradivarius. And very quickly it comes up in the book where Watson is expecting Sherlock to go in and play some of his gloomy Germanic music. And instead, he hears the lilt of an Irish jig coming from the next room. And then there's another point early on where he talks about playing Danny Boy.
Not Danny Boy.
London derriere, which I have a hard time saying because I land on the derriere part. But we're going to weave the fiddler into the performance in a couple of moments when appropriate in talking about the book. And as mentioned, Mick Mellamphy's just an unbelievable actor, great voices, great accent. He's going to jump in and help out with the readings.
John, you missed the most important thing.
Usually I do. That's why we have two of us.
The first drink is on us.
Oh, my God, yes. So, yeah, tell us about that, Martin.
So, as part of your ticket price, the first drink will be on us. And as John explained, you will have the privilege of watching John and me in action, chatting with Terry. That's understood. We have a fiddler. And at the conclusion of the evening, in the main pub area, we're delighted that we will have Chris Byrne, a well-known uilleann piper, a legend, former member of Black 47, will be playing a session along with a number of other musicians. So the craic will continue through the night, and we hope you'll be there to join with us.
When we were there scouting out the joint a couple of weeks ago, Chris and his group were playing there. It was super moving music and really a great session vibe. And I think we mentioned briefly that Terry will have some books on hand, signing them. If you'd like to buy a book and you're in the house, just bring some cash or check, because Terry is strictly old school.
We're going to come back with all the details one more time, and of course they will be in our show notes, so make sure you take a look at those. But I just wanted to presage other upcoming activities from Irish Stew. We're going to take a hiatus on new episodes until June 1st so we can focus on making sure that this is a great event. But
we're going to come back with one reprise episode, The Floating Hospital, amazing charitable organization in New York that really started to rescue the Irish who had come over from the Great Hunger and the freed blacks who had migrated to the Five Points area. And it started off as a charity to help these incredibly poor people basically survive. And that's what the organization continues to do. It has a big fundraiser coming up in June, and we thought we would help our friends out there by reprising our episode with the CEO, Sean Granahan. It's a great story. It's one of the oldest charities in New York, and we're happy to retell that story while we take a deep breath and put our focus on Fresh Stew Live, and then we'll be back in early June with that and other episodes.
And Sean Granahan is a reminder that good people are out there, and it's a great story, so I strongly recommend you give that one a listen.
Just to recap the details, we're everywhere on social media. You'll see the story. We have an event page on our website, hopefully a little press coverage in the meantime, but Fresh Stew Live with Terry Golway, with music and with the book signing will be Monday, June 1st. Doors open at 6:30. The show starts at 7. Ernie O'Malley's 140 East 27th Street, New York, New York. And the tickets are available on Eventbrite. You can find all that information in the show notes, but you can also just go to Eventbrite and look us up that way. Thanks to Ernie O'Malley's in advance and to Mick Mellamphy for his help. And with thanks to all of you who show up and join us for Fresh Stew Live.
So thank you for listening. This has been Martin Nutty, recording in a beautiful day in Central Park.
And I'm John Lee, and I'm going to hang out here for a while and listen to the blades, as we say in New York.
Irish Stew is produced by John Lee, Martin Nutty, and Bill Schultz. Editing, mixing, and mastering by Martin Nutty. Additional editing by Bill Schultz. Music on Irish Stew was composed and performed by Rosa Nutty, with Donald Bowens on drums, Cathal O'Riordan on bass and synthesizer. For more on Rosa Nutty's music, please visit rosanutty.com.